Do you ever find yourself asking this question? Which of these two samplers is best for you? How's it going, everyone? I hope all of you are doing well. My name is Chris. Thank you guys for visiting the channel today. In today's video, we're going to talk about the Roland SP-404SX versus the Akai MPC One. Which sampler is best for your setup, your workflow? First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who joined last Saturday's stream. It was a lot of fun. It was fun talking to you guys. I want to say that I plan on doing more streams in the future. I'm going to try my best when I have some available time. Not only was it my first stream on YouTube, but it was to promote my new beat tape that just came out called Mystery Machine. You guys can check it out here on YouTube, or you can look me up on Spotify and check out the beat tape there. Let's jump right in. Let's talk about reasons why you would buy an SP-404SX. So one of the things that I probably want to bring up first before I talk about the SP-404 is its price. Nowadays, you can get an SP-404SX for about $400 brand new, I believe. I think I saw a listing on Amazon that had it at that price. When I purchased this one, I got this one from Sweetwater, I believe, or Guitar Center, and I think I paid $500. That was before they released the SP-404A, which if you look online, those are still available by, you know, the big companies like Guitar Center and Sweetwater, but the price on them is $550 the last time I checked. The reason I bring up price is obviously price is a big factor when buying a sampler, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like an investment, but you also don't want to overdo it to a point where you feel like you might not have any money left. You can always go the used route. Used Roland SP-404s are usually in pretty banged up condition. People really mistreat these samplers. I'm really not sure why. I get it, the portability factor, but I mean, some of them have some crazy dents and scratches, and like I had this one for a while, and I think it looks, you know, pretty clean, right? It doesn't really have any scratches. I try my best to take care of it. And then, you know, some of them have malfunction issues, but you can go the used route and maybe save another extra $100, if even that. Because even the used market is pretty expensive when it comes to the Roland SP-404SX. Now, it's okay to say that I have a budget of $550 that I'm willing and comfortable to spend on some new equipment. The Roland SP-404 just happens to fall in that range. That's the reason why I'm going to grab it. Because if we compare it to like the MPC One, the MPC One is still $200 at $699. And that's not including taxes, which if you're in California, you get taxed pretty heavy for buying something like that. You're gonna end up paying like $750, an extra $50 on the sampler, and the same thing goes for the SP. You'll probably end up paying $600 if you get the brand new Roland SP-404A. Let's talk about the things that the MPC One doesn't have that the Roland SP-404SX does. The first thing that the Roland SP-404SX has that the MPC One doesn't is portability. And what I mean by that is that you're able to load batteries in here. I did mention it in a previous video that the lifetime for that isn't that impressive, and the batteries can get very expensive. But if it's something casual that you do every now and then, just to, you know, go to a place, maybe you want to shoot a video, you take your SP, you go to the park, you set up everything, and you do your little beat making video, live set, whatever it is. That's one of the cool things about the SP, and I honestly have used it in that form before. There's something nice about being able to just kind of pick up the sampler and just go without having to carry any extra cables or anything like that. Anything really could inspire you, and if you just happen to be carrying your sampler with you and you just feel that urge to make music, I love the fact that you're able to do that with the Roland SP-404SX. As most of you know, the MPC One, you still have to connect it to the wall in order for you to be able to utilize it. And there is some external battery options where you can connect one end to an external battery and then the other end to the MPC. There's a couple sketchy ones. I'm sure most of you guys are aware of a producer by the name of Accurate Beats here on YouTube. And the battery pack that he uses, I believe, costs like $200 to $300. I mean, which is basically the price of another sampler. Think about it like this. If you're lucky enough, you can get a Roland SP-404SX used in good condition for $300. That's what you would be basically paying for an external battery pack just for the MPC One. And I've seen those $50 ones. Some people have reviewed it here on YouTube. The voltage is not identical to what the MPC One requires, and that can definitely cause damage to the system down the line. And I remember watching a video of a guy saying, well, so what if it causes damage to the system? By the time it damages it, like, you'll probably move on to the next thing. And it's like, if I spend $700 on something, I kind of want it to last me a lifetime, you know, even though realistically it might not, but I want it to last me a long time. I want it to not break, basically. So I'm not going to go out of my way and just shorten the life of the machine by just being able to carry it external. And it's just, the whole setup is really ugly. I really don't like it. I think it looks kind of corny, but that's just me. Another thing that the SP-404SX has that the MPC One doesn't, in my opinion, I feel like the effects that come on the SP-404 devices just have an overall better tone than some of the plugins in the MPC One. And don't get me wrong, I am super impressed by the plugins in the MPC One and the new MPCs. They sound great, but I just feel like these just sound a little bit better. There's a little bit more character to them. Some of them are not great. Like, for example, the pitch. Most of you know I hate the pitch on this thing. It's super annoying. The most famous one being the vinyl simulator, but I really like the isolator on here. I like the tone of the isolator. I like the chorus effect. The reverb sounds dope. Definitely usable. You can even probably run a vocal through that and it'll sound cool. Yesterday I was just hanging out, just, you know, watching some Twitch streams, and I was on Spell's Twitch streams. If you guys aren't familiar with Spell, he's a hip hop producer from Melbourne, does some crazy like funk, G-funk, hip hop, West Coast vibes. I'm always saying, Spell, you're from Compton, with those West Coast vibes. And he was recently talking about how he doesn't know how to make a beat on the SP-404SX, but he loves using it for the effects and all, you know, the capabilities that it carries. And that's okay too, because, you know, he's a big Ableton user, so there's no reason to be using the SP-404SX if he's comfortable with sequencing in Ableton. But one thing that he is utilizing are the effects, and that's because the effects are really, really good. When I started off the video, I mentioned that we would talk about which sampler would work with your workflow or your setup. It could be that you just want a sampler that has really good effects, and that's why you would go and roll an SP-404SX, just like Spell did. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong with that. You're getting a great machine for the amount of money, and the effects are absolutely usable. They're amazing. One of the other things that I feel like the SP-404SX does better than the MPC One is you have the ability to do more live sets, more material on the fly, more abstract, more performances. You could do it on the MPC One without a doubt, but I feel like even loading up a couple things might be a little bit more tedious. Like, let's say you make a lot of beats on the MPC One and you want to load them all together so you can kind of put together some type of live set. I think I would find that very difficult to do. I'm not saying it's impossible to be able to do a live set on the MPC One. I just feel like it would be more tedious because of the fact of, let's say you have 10 beats that you want to load for a performance. To be able to set that up all within the MPC One takes a lot more time than you just dragging and dropping some stuff onto the Roland SP-404 and just being on your way. Now, keep in mind, the transfer process is not the fastest when you're doing it on the SP-404SX, but it's still a lot faster than you kind of setting up your live set in an MPC One, in my opinion. Because like I mentioned, if you have 10 beats and you want to put them all in one session so you can play all 10 of those beats at once, you kind of got to, you know, load in all the sounds and kind of try to figure out a way to load in those sequences without, you know, clearing out all the data that's already there. There's a reason why a lot of people carry this box to do performances. Being able to do effects on the fly, being able to play beats straight from these pads, and you could load up with a ton of your material and just be set and ready to go. On the other hand, on the MPC, I could see myself taking hours to kind of set up a whole live set on the MPC One. So to recap a little bit, the SP-404 has better effects, in my opinion. You can do better live performances with it because of its simplicity and layout. And you're able to take it anywhere with some AA batteries. You can go anywhere with it. Literally anywhere, the desert. I don't know, anywhere. So if you find yourself in that realm where you're doing a lot of live performances, you need something that's portable, and you need something with really cool effects, I mean, the SP-404SX is for you then. Now let's talk about the MPC One. Now, from my last video, I mentioned that the MPC samplers, the new MPC samplers, are the greatest samplers ever made. If you want to check that video out, I'll throw it up here in the cards. I know it probably felt like I was talking bad about the MPC One, but in all honesty, when it comes to just straight music production, the MPC One is a winner without any argument. Coming in at a price of $700, like I mentioned. If you're looking to just save up a couple extra $100 to purchase this thing, and your main goal is just to make beats and really focus on just music production, I mean, you're going to have a better time using this than the Roland SP-404SX. The 404 is not for everyone. The 404 does have a little bit of a different workflow. It has a sequencer, which the sequencer is very straightforward, but the way that you're able to kind of chop the sample and manipulate it and loops and the polyphony, like those things are limiting factors that if you're kind of don't want restrictions like that, then you get an MPC One, like, or an MPC for that matter. Obviously, the first thing that the MPC does better is the sequencer. The sequencer is so easy to use. You don't have to worry about polyphony. I feel like you'll be a lot more comfortable, a lot more relaxed making beats on the MPC One, just because, you know, the sequencing is just very easy to lay down some drums, some bass lines, some sound effects, and vocals if you wanted to go that route as well. And I would say the SP-404 is fun for sequencing. I never really had an issue with the sequencer. My issue has always been with the polyphony. The polyphony has always annoyed me because I like to really layer my songs and my tracks. So I'll layer drum sounds and effects and add little things here and there. Like, I really like to do that. And to not have that ability to get really creative in that sense on the SP kind of, you know, it kind of sucks. So there's a limitation there. You have to think carefully of how, you know, what move you're going to make next, which like I mentioned before, which could be a good or a bad thing. It depends. The next thing I want to talk about is chopping. Chopping is so much easier in the MPC One. And this is something that I've mentioned a lot in my previous videos as well. It's just you have so many ways of chopping. You have a lot of options. You can use the encoders or the screen, or you can do like an auto chop. Like, you have those options to just get things done. And on the Roland SP-404, you got to kind of trim and trim and trim and trim. And it only lets you go 30% one way and then 30% the other, which is very tedious because it doesn't allow you to kind of trim at a quicker rate, at a more precise rate. It's a very slow way of chopping samples. A lot of people won't chop samples on the SP. They'll chop it on their computer and then load it into the SP, which, if you don't mind doing that, is a perfectly fine workaround. But chopping samples in the SP is not pleasant. It is really annoying. It's probably my least favorite thing about the SP-404SX. The third thing that the MPC One does better than the Roland SP-404SX is that it has like envelopes: attack, sustain, decay. If the SP-404SX had envelopes, I mean, that alone would just take it to a whole other level. You would have a lot more control over your drum sounds or any sounds that you place inside of it, along with its effects. Like, I think people sleep on the idea of attack and sustain and decay envelopes. I use them all the time on every single beat. A lot of the times you'll sample something and you'll hear a little click, right? This was a very common problem on the SP-202. Not sure why on the SP-202 more than any of the other SPs, but it was just a very common problem. And honestly, if there was like an attack knob that allowed you to just change the attack of a sample, that click would have disappeared. And I do it all the time on the MPC One. On the MPC One, if there's a little click, just even turn up the attack just a little bit, maybe like 20%, and you'll never hear that click again. And it just kind of, it's like cleaning up a beat. Cleaning up a beat is a lot easier on the MPC One than it is on the Roland SP-404SX. So to summarize everything, I said that the sequencer was better on the MPC One than the Roland SP-404SX. The chopping samples is way better than what you would use on the Roland SP-404SX. And the attack and sustain and release envelopes that come in the MPC One that are not included at all in a Roland SP-404SX device. So obviously I could have went into more detail to why the MPC One is a better sampler. This video was more or less for people that are wanting to go a certain route with their equipment and their setup. Just because the MPC One a lot of stuff better doesn't mean that it'll work in your workflow. I think the MPC One is just for a producer that just wants to make beats. And like I mentioned before, I think the SP-404 is more suited for someone that wants to utilize the effects along with having that option of doing more live performances with it. So hopefully I helped you a little bit on deciding on which sampler is best for you. Let me know what you guys thought of this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Give me a thumbs up if you guys enjoyed this, and let's get to 4,000 subscribers. We're getting so close, so close. I want to get to 4,000 before the year ends. It's just a little goal of mine, a little challenge to see if it's possible. We're almost there, which is crazy. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.